something that's come up a lot recently in the office is lawnmower parenting and helicopter parenting, and just the difference in those. But it's something for parents to look out for, to make sure they're kind of keeping that tempered and not doing it too much. And I'm sure you're wondering what a helicopter parent is or what a lawnmower parent is. So in my mind, a helicopter parent is the one that kind of hovers above their child, looking down, making sure everything's okay, they're on a good path, and the minute that they get to anything that's difficult, that may be an awkward confrontation, the parent drops the rope down and says, come on up, we're going to remove you from the situation. And an example may be school. Say that child is experiencing difficulties in school, they don't like their teachers, the principal is the problem, and the parent says, okay, we're going to pull you out of that school, we're going to go over here, let's try this school, let's go to this different one, it'll solve our problems. And then the lawnmower parent is more of the parent, instead of hovering above, they're just kind of clearing the path to make sure that the kid's not running into anything that's uncomfortable or confrontational, and they're having those confrontations for their kids. So maybe they're going in the school and talking to the teachers or the principal saying, you need to make life easier for my child. And before you take offense to this, I would like to throw out there that my mom was doing some of this too, and I know your mom was probably doing some of these things. But I think that attitude, those mentalities enable our addiction and our drug use, and it probably carried it on a little longer than it should have been or had to have been. And, they were doing the best they could at that time, but...
Yeah. I mean, I switched schools. 6th grade I switched schools going into 7th. 7th into 8th I switched. 8th into 9th I switched. 9th into 10th I switched. 10th into 11th I stayed at the same school, but halfway through 11th grade I switched schools.
Yeah.
And then halfway through 12th grade switched schools again. So like 7 times in 7 years. Yeah. And a lot of that being around, who I was hanging out with and who was at that school and getting me to a new environment. Again, I think you're just doing the best. At the end of the day, I think it's just like grappling with what you can control, and so it's, all right, I'm going to pull them out of this situation, or I'm going to clear the path so they can be more successful because I can control that and I don't have to watch them struggle. And I think that's the really tough part, is watching someone struggle and not helping them, or not doing everything you can do to help them. But then the other side of it is that by helping them, they never really learn how to help themselves or like develop coping skills. And that's where a lot of people, I think, turn to drugs and alcohol. Low self-esteem, lots of insecurities, that they can't make it in the world without their parents stepping in and doing things for them. So it really, it kind of cuts them off at the knees, to where they don't feel like they can function in the world without a parent doing the things for them. And what's even interesting is, while I was listening to you talk about it, you said child, kid, and like those are still the words that we use for adult people that are someone's child. But like, this is this parent's child, but then child is a word for a child, someone who's very young.
Yes.
Kid is a word for someone. There's like no really word that I can think of, son or daughter, but there's no broader like non-gender specific word that applies to someone who is someone's son or daughter that's an adult.
Just a young adult.
A young adult, It's like my young adult child. But then still the word child or kid is at the end. And that's what's tough, is that, I've got a 1.5-year-old and I have to do everything for him. Like, I can't have that attitude with him of like, he's never going to learn how to, change his own diaper if I keep doing it for him. Like, that's crazy. Mm-hmm. You would obviously do that for him and make that happen. But then at some point, and it's like different for everybody, and it's different for every person and every kid and every parent, at some point in that like 12 to 18-year-old range, they have to be given the reins more, and they have to start doing things more for themselves.
I mean, at some point they become capable.
Yes.
Capable is the key word there. Because I also heard a quote a few weeks ago, and it was talking about helping versus enabling. Mm-hmm. And helping someone is doing something for someone that they can't do for themselves. Like your 1.5-year-old, he can't change he's not capable of changing his diaper. enabling someone is doing something for someone that they are able and should be doing for themselves. But that line gets blurred so much, especially when we're talking about substance use disorder. And a parent can say, well, I'm not enabling his drug use. I just pay for his apartment and I pay for his food. And well, yeah, you're making life very comfortable for him, and which is allowing him to continue to use, and he's selling some of the things that you're buying him so that he can buy the drugs or alcohol or whatever it may be. So at some point that line gets very blurred. And I think it's just always good to be on your toes as a parent to a child or a young adult to say, hey, where are they capable? What is my son capable? Is my son capable of going and getting a job and paying his own rent? And yes, it's going to be scary, but is he capable? Is she capable? Is my daughter capable of, going to school and finishing out this 4-year degree to do this thing that really means a lot to her? I think that's the question that constantly has to be entertained.
Yeah, and I remember talking. It's interesting you bringing up the parent who's paying their child's apartment. I mean, like, I'm not paying for their drugs. I remember I was talking to a mom one time and I said, yeah, but by you paying, in this case it was a mother and a son, by you paying, his rent, now all the money he makes can go to drugs. Whereas in this secondary way, you are enabling it. And I remember she was like, wow, I never thought about it that way. Like, it had just never clicked. And so I just don't think it's ever malicious. It's all out of love. It's all out of just like grappling with this really difficult topic and how do I support my child. But it's just being able to take a step back here, a different perspective of like where you may be helping or hurting the process and what you could do different to be more helpful, even if it might not feel that way in the beginning, which is also interesting because they're so parallel. Like the person struggling with addiction and the loved one that, maybe has been enabling them, that process is so similar. Like there's ego there, not wanting to change. No, I'm not the problem. The guy or the girl or whoever who has a parent and they're saying, no, it's not me, it's just my mom and my dad. If they would just get off my case and whatever. Well, what does that sound like? The same thing as when the parents are like, well, if he or she would stop doing drugs, then everything would be better. And I think when everybody takes a look in the mirror within a family system to see what they can change and what they can do different and be willing to do something different, that's when it really happens. It's just tough to get there. And especially everybody at the same time on the same timeline moving forward, rather than maybe the guy or girl gets it, the person struggling before the parents, or the parents get it before the child gets it. The husband gets it before the wife gets it, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
It's tough for everybody to get it at the right time to move forward together.
Yeah. I'd also like to point out that we're talking about a parental issue that can affect anyone. But specifically when we look at that with substance use disorder or addiction, we're looking, or I'd like to point out that the son or daughter, whoever's struggling, they can do a really good job of making it seem like they're not capable.
Oh, yeah.
Of like, they're going to blur the line for you a little bit and manipulate you into thinking like, well, I applied to 20 different jobs and no one's hiring me. So like, I can't even find a job right now and I need you to pay my rent. Like, how often do we run into that?
Oh, yeah.
That kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
Where it's like, no, you're capable and you need to keep trying. Like, in fact, if you don't have a job, you're just looking for a job like it's your job and spend 8 hours a day doing it.
Yeah, you'd have a job pretty quick.
You'd have one pretty quick. And you may have to change your viewpoint on what's a good job for you. But pick anything up until you find the next thing, until you find the better thing.
That's always the case too. Almost always the case when I dig in on someone who's like looking for a job. And my method is you get a notebook, and when you apply to a job, you write down where you applied, the name of the person you spoke with, the date you spoke with them, when you're like, what's the next step? Are they supposed to call back in 3 days? Are you supposed to call back in 3 days? And then if you do that like a job for 8 hours a day, even 3 hours a day, almost every person I've ever worked with in that way has had a job by the end of the week. When left to their own devices, like, hey, you do it your way, you know how to apply to jobs, I'm here to help for whatever you need, mock interview, ideas on where to apply, how to ask for a job, like any of that stuff, I'm here. But I want you to kind of man the ship as far as like what you need. I'm not going to force anything on you.
Yeah.
And I'll let that go for like 2 weeks, a month, until then it's like, all right, nothing's changing. And then you dig in and it's, I called this place, but they never called me back. Well, did you leave a voicemail? No. How the heck would they call you back? And so you're more like, you're checking the box more than actually trying to accomplish the task.
Yeah.
So that you can say, I applied to 20 jobs. And in today's world, I know that you can go on Indeed and check 20 boxes, same resume to each one, didn't do a different cover letter or anything specific to that job, and just mass apply to 20 jobs.
Yeah.
And say, I applied to 20 jobs, no one's calling me back. I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
I'm trying, Mom. I really am. You know, and it's just easy to buy into that, especially when you kind of want to. And holding people accountable is tough and it's uncomfortable. And a lot of times someone who doesn't want to be held accountable, it's by design that they make it uncomfortable for someone to do that.
Yeah.
So that they don't do it the next time of like, hey, remember that? That sucked. When you tried to like dig in and ask questions and
I
stuff
blew
like
up
that.
on you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's all by design. And I think we run into that a lot where someone is purposely putting out the spikes of the porcupine so that people don't come touch them again or bother them or anything, so they can keep doing what they want to do.
Yeah.
But my point is always, you know, whatever you've been doing hasn't been working. So now let's try something different. But I always start with, let's try it your way. You know, as much as we can, I want to do it your way. And if that works, I'm good with it. If
Yeah.
you get a job, all good. I don't care how you get it, how you got there. That's your process. It's your design. I think that's awesome. Like as much autonomy as possible. But at the point in time that it's a month later and you still don't have a job, we're going to pivot more and more to my way just so that you get the job. And then we can go back to your way with other stuff.
Yeah. I mean, what do you think what is the ticket to getting a parent to recognize when they're being that, going back to the helicopter or the lawnmower and practicing stepping away? It's either stepping away from the lawnmower or stepping away from the controls of that helicopter. How do you think that they catch that and get better at catching that they're doing it? And
again, I think it's the same thing as the person struggling. The person struggling needs good people around them that can see what they don't see in their own life. Because it's hard for me to see where I'm struggling and I'm failing, especially when I don't have much practice in looking inward in that way. And it's like painful to hold myself accountable and to practice like that level of humility, to admit my mistakes and where I need to be better. So I need to first rely on other people who know what they're talking about to help me see that. But I have to be able to hear that from them, because if they tell me and I freak out on them, they're not going to want to tell me the next time.
yeah,
And so I think it's really a lot of accountability, humility, and surrounding yourself with good people who know what they're talking about. That when you're checking in with them, you're like, hey, yeah, you know, so he said he needed $50 for this or that. So I sent it to him. What do you think? Should I have done that? Should I not have done that? And then having that person there that, again, knows they can give you feedback to say, what happened? Why'd
Yeah.
you do that? You know, like, this is what we've been talking about. Oh, God, I wasn't even thinking about it. I just bought into it, and I felt like he wasn't going to eat that day if I didn't give him that $50. You know, and just being able to take a step back and examine it so that you can do better in the future.
yeah. And you also have to make it a safe place for people to give you feedback, honest feedback, because if you're them biting their heads off or like turning it back around on them, they're not going to want to give you feedback the next time,
Yeah.
or at least honest feedback.
Yeah.
You know, then they'll start spinning stories to you as well. So you have to keep yourself in check and be willing and open to hearing what other people have to say and
Yeah.
trying new things. I mean, as guys who work with a lot of young adults and a lot of parents, how many have we worked with who have parents in like a CEO position or an attorney position who are like, they are designed to like figure things out, to make things work. But when it comes to their relationship with their son or daughter, they're having a lot of trouble making it work.
Because it's counterproductive.
Yes.
What has worked for a parent who is wildly successful, type A personality, gets things done, makes it happen, you know, which are all awesome characteristics and traits, and I'm not saying anything bad about them, but just that pointed towards your adult child who needs to start learning to do things for themselves, it's actually hurting them. And it just makes them more dependent on you, less independent, which leaves them no self-confidence, no self-esteem, all these insecurities about whether they can make it in the world. And that's not, I mean, I know that, at least for me, I mean, my biggest goal in life is to have it to where when I'm gone, my children are going to be okay. You know, that's like the ultimate goal. And so if they're completely dependent on me, then if I go, what do they do?
Yeah.
And I just don't want to, I don't want to go with that knowledge that they're not going to be okay. But that's going to be uncomfortable to get there, because sometimes I'm going to have to let them fall. I'm going to have to let them stumble, let them trip, let them pick themselves back up, let them kind of figure out things for themselves, where I really just want to jump in and do it for them so that it's done right,
Yeah.
or that they have the best outcome, or that people think well of them, because I can kind of have my own ego attached to, even I see it with my son, of like, where's he developmentally? Is he walking? Is he doing this? I could jump in and do it for him so he looks a little better, because like my own ego is kind of attached to where he is and how he's doing.
Yeah. And I'm sure you've seen this at some point with your 1.5-year-old son, that like him try to do something and fail at it. And let's just throw out like to pull himself up onto a chair or the sofa, and he's trying and he's failing and he's trying and he's failing. And then he gets it and gives you that little turnaround, like huge smile of like, look what I just did. But if you step in as that lawnmower, that helicopter, or you just pick them up, plop them in the chair, you just robbed them of that immense joy that they just experienced, and self-esteem they just built up by completing that task on their own.
And
So-
you know what my son would do instead? He would look back like this before he even tries to get up and just point.
Yeah.
Of like, yeah, go ahead, pick me up, put me up there. That's what we do, right?
Yeah.
I don't need to try. I'll just say, up. This is what he says, up. And point like that, and then he'll expect me to come over and do it for him.
Yeah.
And that's like that learned helplessness, where then he'll never get it. And I will tell you what, I have never seen more determination on earth than a toddler trying to get on a couch or do whatever. Like, they will squeeze and
Yeah.
claw and get it. Like, they will figure it out.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty amazing to watch, because it's just unfettered by someone might do it for me or anything like that. They're just like, I want up, and I'm going to get up.
Yeah.
You know, until they learn that I don't need to try, and I'll just look at my parent and and they'll put me up.
Yeah.
And I think that translates throughout life, and it's a tough line, because at some point that changes, and it's not like the day they turn 16 you need to start holding them more accountable. It's like this slow, gradual thing where you give them a little more, a little more, a little more. And so I think that makes it difficult, that
Yeah.
you don't have an 18 or a 20-year-old that's still going up,
Yeah.
you know, and looking at you. But up today is, you know, make it to where I can do well in school because my teacher's being difficult, when really I'm the one who's not doing my assignments.
Yeah. Yeah, love is a powerful thing. I saw a video, and it was like a little skit on YouTube the other day called The iPad Adult. And it was an adult at a dinner party with another couple, but he's just sitting there. They're all eating, talking.
I saw that.
And he has like a girlfriend or a wife there with him, but he's just on his iPad while she's doing the communication. And she's like reaching over to dab his cheek, wipe food off of his mouth. And he's just like hunkered down with that iPad. And it's just like, gosh, I hope we are not headed that direction. I don't
Well,
want to see that.
And in a lot of cases, what I find is that people who struggle with that, like doing things for themselves and have that parent that's like helped them and always cleared the way a lot, that's the partner that they seek out.
Oh, yeah.
Is
To take
someone
care of them.
equally codependent, going to jump in and do things for them, make excuses for them, make things happen. And so then it's like the cycle just continues, rather than, becoming more independent, and joining in more of like a partnership. And if you're a guy, not finding your next forever mom who's going to be really your wife, but now she needs to take care of you.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the aim, but it's a tough shot to hit.
Yeah. Well, all of that to say, look out for the lawnmower or the helicopter.